reputation, and people, you know what I'm saying, basically they were respected, they were feared, they were, you know what I'm saying, that's what I wanted. It's sad because, it took me a lot of years, a lot of pain, and a lot of fighting to finally realize that if you really want something bad enough, you can get it. I got a name. They say I'm like Bigfoot. Everybody heard of me, but ain't nobody seen me. Because for 2 decades, for over 20 years, I was locked inside of a cage. And I'm talking about, I went from level 1 to level 2 to level 3 to level 4, and then back down to level 3, and then finally I was able to parole, and the mental game that goes on when you're incarcerated, it can break you. It can break you. I've seen it happen. I spent a lot of time fighting just because I wanted a name and a reputation, and I didn't go along with the status quo. I didn't go along with what was supposed to be the rules and regulations when I came to prison. And I knew this because of the way I was raised. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in Southeast San Diego, and it was during the 70s and the 80s. And I grew up on C Street, in between 39th and 40th. So that was home base for the neighborhood Crips. And I grew up right there, and my neighbors, you know what I'm saying, my neighbor on my right was Baby Bull Capone, Lil Joey. And then 2 doors down, you know what I'm saying, we had Grady, and then John, and then, you know what I'm saying, my neighbor on the right hand side, that was Tone Loc, and then his brother Keith, and then, but I grew up with him, his little brother Buddha, he had a big brother Pierre, and then next door to them were the Slaughters, Joey and the twins, Joey and David, and Richard, and the next door to that was Mr. Leroy House. Man, it's crazy how it's all different. Everything is none of it is the same. You go back to, I guess you go back anywhere after like 40 years and things have changed. So, this is just me reminiscing on what was. Because when I was growing up, it was hard. I had a lot of adversity and problems and things I had to deal with and work through. But there was good times. It wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad. So it was a lot of work, and I got through it, and I'm still here. And it was a lot of times I didn't think I was gonna make it. I kind of my whole life I had been told that, if you ever go to prison, the whites are gonna kill you because I run with the blacks. I'm, I'm saying, I'm Snow Rock. But at the time, Snow Rock wasn't nobody, and this was, I'm saying, when I was coming of age, and it's crazy because everybody used to call me a wannabe and say I pretend like I'm black and I think I'm black and I want to be black, but that has never been the case. I've always, I just tried to be me, but you know what I'm saying, where I came up with, who I came up with, and how I came up affected me in ways that created what I am today. And I think this is the best version of me that there's ever been. Look, my priorities are, I feel they're in order. I feel like, what I'm saying, I feel like I'm a man. When I was young, I used to believe that when I got a roof over my head and I'm paying the bills, then I'm a man. What I'm saying, that's not true, because when I was 14 years old, I had my own apartment, and it was different, because I was selling crack cocaine. So, my life was a little different than most I don't know. I don't think, you know what I'm saying, I think everything you go through makes you who you are. So everything I went through has made me who I am. And I'm good with who I am. You know what I'm saying, I'm constantly working just to be better. Not to be better than you or anybody else, just to be better than I was yesterday. That's all I can do. That's all I can do. And I try and do that every day. And I got a little string, you know what I'm saying? I got a pretty good run there. But you know what I'm saying, my priorities, like I said, are in order. I've learned a lot of things, and I come from, you know what I'm saying, I come from the Crip background, you know what I'm saying? And the C stands for community. And people don't understand your first community is your family. If you can't, you know what I'm saying, get along with and function with your own, then how are you gonna function with anybody else? So that's the thing. So you know what I'm saying, basically I try and work on self. I can't fix nobody else. I can be here for you, I can help you, I can, I can give you a hand up. But you know what I'm saying, I can't fix you. I'm just working on keeping me going. I'm trying to, this part of me, telling my story here is keeping me from doing things I shouldn't be doing. And I'm thankful for it, because it gives me something to do with my time, instead of sitting in there watching the boob tube. That's a waste of time. That's it's just scary how much is going on in the world today. But that's the thing, we have no choice over certain things, but certain things we do. The things we have a choice over, we need to, we need to exercise our rights, we need to know our rights. A lot of people don't even know that you have rights. I don't have all the rights, but I have some of them. I'll take what I can get. So I wanted a reputation, and I got it. And that's the thing, I put it like this, at 13 I got put out on the streets. I ended up, in and out of facility after facility. My first offense was when I was 9 years old. I started my life of crime. I escalated into more, more violence, and ended up, getting locked up and going to juvenile ranch and getting out and trying again and not making it, going back and getting out and going to prison and then getting out, not wanting to go back, and only staying out 7 months and then coming back and then doing 12 years straight, and 12 years, 7 months straight, and then getting released. Now I wanted to do something different, so I knew I had to do something different. So I got into a drug program, and I started working on, basically preparing myself to live and deal with society. I paroled with no family left in San Diego, so I had to make it all happen. And right now, this is the longest I've been out, since I was 9. I'm married. I'm living my best life. I don't have everything, but I have everything I need. I'm doing well. It's still a struggle every day. I work 10-hour days, sometimes I'll get some overtime in. But we work 50-hour weeks, and it's go. And that's the thing, because like when I was a kid, all I wanted was that reputation, and now I got a reputation. It ain't worth it. It's not worth what I paid to get it. But we can't go back. So that's the thing, you can learn something from everybody, and you can learn a lot from a dummy. Hopefully, people don't have to do the dumb things I did, because like I said, I was just trying to create a reputation, and I did. I got a reputation now. But it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. If I could go back, things change, but I can't go back. So now that reputation, I'm trying to make an honest dollar off of it. That's what this is. This is a small YouTube channel, where, you know what I'm saying, I monetize, you know what I'm saying, every now and then people send donations. All donations are appreciated. Hit the comment, you know what I'm saying, hit a like, you know what I'm saying, hit subscribe. It don't cost a dime, you know what I'm saying, that's all the support I'm asking for is just, you know what I'm saying, hit that subscribe, hit that thumbs up, you know what I mean, leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm, you know what I'm saying. If you can't share this, share it to me, share it to anybody, it doesn't matter, share it to yourself. You know what I'm saying, it shows the algorithm or whatever, whoever's in control that somebody's paying attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth. So again, thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, and see you next time. Hey, that's it for tonight. You know what I mean? Let me know what you think. Hit the comment. You know what I mean? Tell me, you know what I'm saying, if anything caught your attention. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
If I drop one, can I drop both? Can I walk this block with my hands just shown? If I fold that blue, let the steel stay home. Would I finally feel like I ain't alone? Blue rag in the night, that's the armor I got in this fight. Ain't proud, but it kept me alive. Trying to trade these scars for sunrise. Blue